Hi, Dawn Lewis here. Welcome to day 2 of the Sketch and Scraps series. In all of the videos this week, I will be using Fuzzy Felines by Hello Sweetums. Gorgeous. And what I thought I'd do before we even make a project is I'll walk you through the way I created this sketch. I thought I'd go with something really simple, very basic, that you could use scraps on your desk. And that's where this project came from. I wanted to use up scraps on my desk. My plan is to have a regular card base, use a strip of pattern paper, add a sentiment, pretty standard for all cards. I'm going to put a strip of contrasting cardstock in there just to add a little bit of a line, and also a space for our hero image. In this case, I've put a circle and we shall see how we go. I'm going to show you how we make the standard and how we set it all up. But first I wanted to show you a little something. Don't freak out. I cut down one of my stamps. I wanted to use the You Are section from You Are Perfect with the Positively Awesome. So I've cut that apart, but it's, rest assured, not ruined. I can put them back together and use them together, and you will see me do that throughout this series. So I've pre-stamped a lot of stuff. Let's start with card number 1. This is the card that adheres very strictly to the sketch. It's going to be the benchmark card to which all other projects in this entire video series are compared. I'm using pattern paper. This is leftover. This pattern paper has got to be 15 years old if it's a day. It is really old paper, and I'm going to use the side of the card as a guide to trim it down. I don't normally like to trim with scissors, but when you've got a guide on the edge of the card, I think it's okay because you're going to get a straight line. Here comes my contrast strip. I'm using a very thin strip of maybe 1/4 inch strip of black cardstock, not a 1/4 inch. It's even smaller than that. Look, I didn't measure it. It's just a strip that I had on my desk that I wanted to use up. I'm going to use a small circle die and place it onto a slightly larger one. We've got a white base on a black mat. I did realize that I hadn't quite centered that, and it is definitely worth the time to make sure you do center things. And this is going to be the grounding piece, the mat for our hero, our kitty, who is going to feature on every single card. The last thing that we need for this card is a sentiment. So here is one that I've stamped out, and I'm matting it on black cardstock. Now I've left an even border on the left and underneath. Now I'm going to use my ruler on a self-healing craft mat with a knife to trim it down. You'll notice I do lots of little cuts here. That's because there's not a lot under the ruler. I want to have a very straight line and not have the cardstock move while I'm cutting it. So this way, by doing gentle scoring cuts a few times, you're guaranteed a very straight line, even though you're using a ruler. They can move. And here is our sentiments. So you can see this is exactly the same as the sketch that I did. We've got our card base, pattern paper, contrast strip, circle for our hero, our kitty, and a sentiment. But how do we mix this up? Well, let me show you in card number 2. For card number 2, I've got a completely different look without a different look. I've just used a larger piece of pattern paper, and I've used a wider contrasting strip. And to add a little extra interest, I've added a very thin contrasting strip. The black base instead of a solid circle, a blue frame. These were all on my desk from old projects. And in this case, I have cut my sentiment in half and I have it staggered. So look at this. Even though it's the same sketch, it's the same components, it's laid out a little bit differently, which gives us a really different card. It has all the elements, but it looks a bit different. Now let's look at card number 3. Again, this is the same sketch. It's the same components, but I'm mixing it up a little bit. This pattern paper, it's smaller than the first and the second card. The great thing about having a good card base is if you line up your pattern paper, you know you've got a straight edge and you line it up, it's very easy to trim it down and make sure everything is square. Wonderful. Love it so much. So I've got a thinner pattern paper, but a much wider contrast strip. I'm also stepping up the circle configuration. I've got a really big circle. I've got the black circle, which I've deliberately placed off center down towards the right, a smaller pattern paper circle, which I've deliberately turned to give it a diagonal plaid look. And the kitty is looking over to the right, and that is why I put all of the circles off center over to the lower right. I played with where the sentiment would go and decided it did look best in its original placement. And you can see this is where I've used You Are with the Positively Awesome. So again, same components, pattern paper, contrast strip, circle, kitty, white card base, sentiment. It's all the same components, just slightly different configuration. Let's have a look at card number 4, where I'm mixing it up just a little bit again. Now you might recognize this pattern paper. I've been using it a lot. I still haven't used it all up. It's from an Aldi paper pad, I think. It's from some paper pad that I've had sitting around for 5 years at least. And this time I'm using 2 contrasting pattern papers. They're from the same collection, but they work together really nicely. Thin contrast strip, and to add to that, I'm using the tear off strip from the top of the piece of pattern paper. If that's got a pretty pattern on it, don't throw it away. Use it as a contrast strip. It worked really well. I've added adhesive to my kitty, and this time I'm skipping the circle. The kitty can stand on her own. And I'm adding, again, a 2-part cinnamon, but this time I've put it on red cardstock rather than black to help it blend in. So you can see again, same components. This time the pattern paper is the same size. It's a different configuration by using several papers that coordinate. And I've used the foam adhesive for the a bit of dimension on the sentiment for something a little bit different. This is the last one I've got for you today, card number 5. I'm switching it up again. It's the same sketch. These were so quick to make. I think I knocked out these cards in under 10 minutes each, though I have sped them up a little bit for you here. Now, these 2 papers are not from a coordinating pack. They were literally sitting on my desk and they just happened to work together. So I've got 2 of them, but this time no contrast strip. And instead of a circle, I'm using rectangles. That's because our lovely kitty, I thought it was time to add one of those cute accessories. I have the 2-part sentiment, and this time I'm placing it up above. And it works, and you can see the sketches followed. And sketches are only meant to be a kickoff, a starting point, so that you can get started and get a card made and finished. Now, if you are crushing on this fuzzy feline stamp set and wondering, where can I get that? I need these kitties in my life. You can get that in Australia at dawnlewis.com.au. And here you're looking at all 5 of the cards I made today. You can see their similarities. Same cat, same piece of pattern paper, same contrast. There's a hard line on all of these cards. There's a hero on all of these cards. There's a sentiment on all of these cards. There's pattern paper on all of these cards. Sketches are meant to be a jumping off point to get you making a card. And you know what? Complicated and fussy and laden with lots of embellishments is absolutely beautiful, but simple is done. And this is a great way that you can actually build up your stash, create great cards, and have all your birthdays, your weddings, your anniversaries covered for the year. I do hope you enjoyed this look at day 2 of this Sketch and Stash series. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new video. I do hope you have a very crafty day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.